welcome to Actual Spinster. This is just a wrap up of everything I read in December from last year. It's a little bit late, but I've been applying to PhDs, so... Yeah, I didn't read very much in December. I kind of slowed down quite a lot, apart from my War and Peace reading, which was really, I guess, what took up most of the time I did end up spending reading. So the first thing I read was this nice book called Many Hands Make a Quilt, Short Histories of Radical Quilting by Jess Library, or Public Library Quilts. I think you can find it on Instagram. It's published by Common Threads Press, which is run by someone I went to university with, so that's pretty cool. And like, what really drew me to it is on the back, I don't know if you can see, it says, "With the stitches of this quilt we bind ourselves to the work of abolishing prisons and police," which is actually like an illustration from a abolitionist quilt project that was like facilitated by an artist in maybe 2021? It might have been 2020. But yeah, it's just like a really lovely book full of like sort of illustrations and like a little bit of text about various artists who use textiles and like the radical histories behind those and community and collective approaches to prison. I really recommend it if you're really interested in textiles and like history, but perhaps maybe it's a bit more niche if you're not. I know that Shan from Storytime has this and also said this in a recent video, but I do think one of the main problem with it is just that the text is too close to the spine, so it can be a little bit difficult to read, but otherwise it's really lovely. The next book I read was War and Peace, or I suppose I finished it, because I mean I think I read probably like maybe the last 2 books in December, but maybe just one. I can't remember where I started in December from, if that makes sense, but yeah, I finished this off. I made like a video talking about it. I think for me it was an interesting experience to read, but mostly because of my own, like because of what I brought to the book, not necessarily what the book itself contains. I think it was fine. I feel like Tolstoy maybe played like a massive joke on me because I spent 1,350 pages with him and then I gave the book 3 stars, so it's like pretty mediocre, but I'm glad I finished it, and I'm glad I finished it within 2021 because it was actually like a goal I had for that year, because I started it in like 2018 or something and I was like, it's time to finish it. Yeah, it's like, it begins in 1805 and it does kind of talk about the siege of Russia by Napoleon or whatever in 1812, like the battle between France and Russia, but it also talks about like the lead up to that. It covers a lot. There's lots of different characters. It covers kind of like the military side of it all, as well as more of the interpersonal side. And I do agree with what Tolstoy is doing in terms of how he thinks history works, i.e. like it doesn't just work by a bunch of like one incredible being who makes things happen. It works through many people's bodies and minds all at once, but he doesn't do that to the extent that he should. Like, this isn't a particularly class conscious book, even though like it's kind of attempting to divest away from like a class structure based on history, if that makes sense. But anyway, so like it just could be much better, but it isn't. I think what I am going to try and do in 2021 is read like more Russian literature. I am specifically looking for women of the same time period, because I know there's like quite a lot of like modern famous Russian women authors now. But yeah, so like if you have any recommendations of women authors from, I guess, like the 1800s into the 1900s, let me know, because I'm interested to check them out, but I'm struggling to find them. And especially if they're novelists. Then I ended up rereading the first 3 volumes of the comic book series Giant Days, partially because I actually thought I was going to get rid of all 3 of them, but I kind of wanted to like read them one more time before I sent them off to somebody else to enjoy. But then in the end I really liked the first one so much that I decided to keep it, and I did get rid of the second 2. Yeah, I just think it's like a charming comic book series. I've only read those first 3 and rereading them did make me want to keep reading, but I don't know if I ever would. I definitely won't be like buying the next volumes, and like I don't know if we'll have access to them, but yeah, I think it's a really sweet series. I really liked how it's about university students, and I guess I would like to know what happens to them. It's funny because I started reading that book series I think before I went to university, and now I've like graduated and blah blah, so time is fun. Yeah, I also thought it was really funny how there's like kind of a plotline about ASMR, which is fun. But yeah, definitely really enjoyable, and I'm glad I reread them. And it was very chill. It was nice reading to do, just kind of like late December, just chilling out. And then the last thing I read in 2021 was actually, I didn't really plan to finish with this book, but because of the library. It was going to be taken from me for like the second or third time, so I was like, I'm gonna finish it now. But that's Jacob's Room by Virginia Woolf, which was published in 1922, I believe. Yeah, and is just a book about Jacob kind of growing up, I guess. It's definitely Woolf's earliest, most experimental book, if that makes sense. Like The Voyage Out, Night and Day, both of those are pretty conventional novels, and this one begins to not be. It's almost like all of her books have coats on, but they have coats on in like various different degrees of undress. Like this one, the coat's like off the shoulders, you know, it's like beginning. But the other two, like the first one, it's buttoned right the way up. Or maybe Night and Day is even more buttoned than the other one. Anyway, maybe that helps you, maybe that's a weird image, whatever. But yeah, I did really enjoy this, and it's sort of hard to talk about, I guess, and you know, I mean, it is very much like affected, I would say, by like the war. I think it's set in like it like begins in like the early 1900s, and then kind of we follow Jacob as he grows up a bit, but it's not entirely focused on Jacob. Maybe that's partially why it's called Jacob's Room, and it's also about where Jacob's room is situated and the perspective with which it gives onto the rest of life, and like the life below the window of Jacob's room, and like what exactly does his room hold, his room contain, and what does like a novel hold and contain about life, I guess. So yeah, like you know, not my favourite Woolf book, but definitely one I'm looking forward to rereading actually. And like I said in my best books of the year, like it has just like some of the saddest lines at the end of novel that I feel like I've read. And if I think too much about them, I will cry, so I won't. Or I'll try not to. In a way it feels less kind of like, it feels like less vivid in a way than like Mrs. Dalloway, but it also feels like almost a bit softer than her later books, I think. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm hedging. That's everything I read in December, and I think that's everything I have to say about it, so I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye!